Today I'm joined by Michael, the developer of upcoming story-driven arena shooter GlitchStorm, and Celina, who handles the game's sound design, voiceover, and music. Now Michael's been in the industry for about 15 years, working at both Techland as a level and senior lighting artist and Lucid Games as a level designer. Today we dig into multiplayer, replication, AI within development, and of course, his upcoming project, GlitchStorm. Let's get into it. So when I think of the quadruple A titles that are surfacing nowadays and what that even means for the industry, and then there's these smaller indie titles that have evolved so much over the last couple of years, when you guys look at what the industry is right now, what it was 10 years ago, for you guys, what would you define as an indie game or as a AAA game in 2024?
Yeah, creativity comes from the struggle about that we don't have that amount of money what the giga corporation has.
Yep.
So we have to find our ways. And these ways creates creativity, and we can just turn into the game design and the play itself.
Well, I mean, it's a great point. I think from a money-wise standpoint, you know, the industry in 2023, I believe it made like 180 billion worldwide. It's an insane number. It's so big, right? And by 2026, I think the projection is going to be like 200 plus billion a year annually. There's so much money in the industry, but people have kind of been drawing a line, right? They want to either play only indie or only AAA nowadays. And I always beg the question, it's interesting to see people take those sides, but what does that mean for the industry as a whole in 5 years, in 10 years, when that kind of takes hold? Is it going to be a good thing for AAA and force them to become more creative, or is it going to be a bad thing for indie where their market's going to get so shrinked, the competition is going to get so intense that a lot of developers are not going to be able to compete in the market that is already hard to compete in?
I think it will be less and less visible in the future what is an indie title and what is a AAA title, because nowadays I'm making this game kind of alone. Celina helps me with the music and other things, but I could make everything thanks to Unreal Engine, free tools like GIMP, Audacity and such, and Unreal Marketplace and other engines too. And it is getting much and much easier to make a bigger, better looking game in much shorter time. So I think with the growing marketplaces and easier to use, better tools, and probably also AI now, the thin line between AAA and indie will become even thinner.
And of course, in the COVID situation, everybody started to make music, for example, or even starting making games. And of course, the tools are available, and it's easier and easier, not counting the AI, of course, for now, but it's getting easier and easier creating a music, creating a game. And of course, indie companies who really takes it seriously, it has to be very unique, very careful, planned, and very carefully designed to make something huge, make something impactful to the world. And this is what I think the huge difference, because AAA company can make another Assassin's Creed 15, for example, in the series, just copy paste, and it will work because it is a franchise. But for an indie, we have to shout out all the people.
Upside is that we don't have to earn as much to keep afloat.
That is very true. Your bottom line is much different, right? You're not making a $200 million game. You're making, I don't know, maybe like a $5,000 to a $20,000 game, or maybe something even cheaper than that, right? So your bottom line is much different. And you can even get some of that back in your Kickstarters and things like that. So I always wonder, right? AAA gets a lot of criticism and a lot of backlash because all the lights are on them for releasing games that have bugs in them. They do have that as something that is an issue. And then there's also pay-to-play problems that are within AAA, which is a big issue for gamers. But they get a lot of criticism for both of those things for a much larger model, and they have much more eyes on them. So I always wonder, do they get unfair criticism for those elements, or maybe an unfair amount of criticism for those elements, whereas indie could potentially be getting away with similar bugs on a much smaller scale, writing them off as early access or as, you know, just a smaller studio size with a smaller audience potentially?
I think lately there has been somewhat of a witch hunt against developers on the big studios.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I get that Cyberpunk was buggy in the beginning, but the backlash they got was so blown out of proportion. The game was really good, and I played until today. So do people expect too much now, or maybe it's really they are looking for bugs so they can rage out in the internet?
Early access is very, very good tool. And of course, indie company can afford the time, the resource and everything. Customer feedback is everything, even in personal life, even in music. And early access is a very good thing.
But I always do fear that as a game is released, that's when you have the most eyes on it, right? Like that's when people are all in on that game. You want it to be the best foot forward, right? And I get concerned that you lose a lot of revenue because it's not the best foot forward yet. And if it is the best foot forward, like a year or 6 months later, well then players, they have such short attention spans, right? They've just moved on to the next thing, unfortunately. And
a game like GlitchStorm, I can test it. I don't know, get a publisher to test it as much as I want, but the real test is in the players.
Yeah, the trending topic right now, right? I mean, it's all over the place. AI, it's a big deal right now. This is a game-changing thing, AI. This tool is gonna expedite game development, expedite music production, expedite graphic art design. It could be good, but could it also be bad? And that's the question that we need to figure out. What do you guys see 2024 as the year of AI, right? How is that gonna change the industry we work in?
Yeah, I think the most concerned people about this would be the ones with the specified task, like the 3D modeling, textures, conditions probably too. For me, it doesn't concern me that much because I think the work that I do most, so putting all those things together, it's a far way for AI to come to this, to be as good as to make a whole game work.
And Celina, obviously for you, like I really was fascinated by the thought of the music side of AI. I mean, I've already seen like AI created songs, and some of them are good, some of them are passable, but I think there's gonna come a point where do they just surpass human created music where you can't tell the difference between the two? Like, what do you see as the future for AI on this side of the industry?
Yeah, I have a lot of concern. AI is getting more closer and closer into every aspect of our life. For music, I have a lot of fears because of the human and the consumer part, because more and more music will come into the industry and the noise level is increasing and people will get tired. And I heard amazing, purely AI generated music and even vocals, even everything. It's amazing and it can be compared to a human brain material. The fear is here. One of my idols, Nicki Minaj, she's encouraging people to put this on the table, and it's not it's not evil. It's a good tool, but control. And for example, my producer friend Xotera, he is a cyberpunk music producer, and he is really into AI. And he's emphasizing that humans, people, we have to prepare for a life changing with the AI. So yes, the threat is here, and we have to act as soon as possible, even today, even now.
I have to ask though, right, from the PvP standpoint, from the multiplayer standpoint, I'm jumping one question ahead before I jump back. I automatically, Michael, think of latency, think of lag. I get concerned about that because with development of multiplayer titles, there's always something in the back of a developer's mind where they're like, I got to make it, so it can work on multiple PCs and it can work on multiple platforms and all this fun stuff. And so for me, as somebody who obviously does not have a firm grasp on the coding element or on the development side element of multiplayer, talking to you, somebody who's in it, who's doing it right now, how do you approach that?
Yeah, that is not an easy task. not for me, because when I started making this game, I had 15 years of experience in making games, but I was quite focused on level design and lighting, and the last 1.5 years I learned more than the last 50 years. I have had a second PC, I have the Legion Go, I test playing like this, I play with Celina, I play with my wife. For now, testing in my present conditions, it works good. I have no problem with it. I have my router on the end of the flat, so I connect wirelessly with my Legion Go to the game, and I have the PC on the cable. So here I have very poor connection, here I have good connection, and I test everything I can with this way.
That's fair.
But yeah, it will come later, the time for refining.
So as you look at this from a technical standpoint, right, from the multiplayer technical element, what has been the most difficult aspect of creating this game and then getting it locked into a multiplayer network? You know, I know you'd mentioned you can't really give it a good litmus test because you don't have it logged into the main servers you'll probably be using when it launches. I understand there are some limitations and potentially you might not even be able to get to that point right now because you're just not scaled enough. But as you get closer, right, what has been the most difficult technical challenge in creating the game with multiplayer in mind?
Hardest part in creating a multiplayer game is to learn and most of all to understand how replication works and the connections between server and client and all of this, because in Unreal, I don't know other engines, but it was not easy. I struggle to this day because it's not just what you do and how you replicate it, it's where you do it from, and there are hundreds of possibilities to do it, and yeah, to this day I sometimes have problems with that.
How do you structure multiplayer, right? Is it gonna be finding other players on servers? Is it you and somebody else going in and then playing against the AI characters? Because that kind of changes how your launch rolls out, right? Because post-launch, if it's PvP to a really, really heavy degree, and that's like one of the key elements of gameplay, then all of a sudden post-life health becomes a huge deal, right? Because you have to worry about keeping the game, keeping the player base thriving and healthy and growing to a degree, right? Whereas if it's not as big of a deal, if it's more PvE and story with some PvP elements in there, like if you can get away with kind of not having that as the core element, then all of a sudden you can play with the base you have and not worry as much about, is this game going to have empty servers in a year or in 6 months or in, 2 years or whatever? Like there's not necessarily a lifespan on it. So for you, how do you create the PvP element within this game and how integral is it to the game with that post-launch in mind?
The story elements are only on your ship and on the marketplace planet. To start a match, you have to choose a planet, you fly to that planet, and there starts the typical arena shooter. You can play against bots, you can play against humans, you can mix those two. You progress the story and unlock things, etc. by how you play. Quite a big part of the game is hacking other people. Later on in the game, you also will start an account on U-Bot, which is kind of something like YouTube, and you will have to get as much subscribers as possible, so you earn money, and you get subscribers by playing interestingly. But you can all of this do online and offline against people or bots.
Well, that's a perfect segue then. Let's talk about the game itself, right? The gameplay, the game mechanics, the story, all those different elements.
Whoever will want to play the story has the possibility for it, but if you don't want to, there's only part of the story in the beginning of the game, and in the end will be also here. You start on your ship, you meet your best friend, which is sadly quite destroyed. He is an artificial AI being, and you go on this quest to earn money and find others who could help. Yes, you can hack other people. You have various hacks to unlock, to buy. You print blueprints on your ship. Every killed player drops scrap, and you need that scrap to print things. It's kind of, you need credits and need scrap. For the game release, I have about 15 levels planned. At the moment, I have, I think, 3 are really polished and such, but the levels are, I'm not worried about this. In GlitchStorm, it's you have your ship, you have your friend, there goes the story and such and such. This ship is your menu, your hub. You do everything on there. You choose your shells in this game, your character skins, because those artificials upload to them for the matches. And soon you will discover a planet with a marketplace on it. You fly to this planet, and there you have various shops. You walk around, and there are some side quests. There are people you can talk to, learn more about the story. Yeah. And this is, I think, the main thing that separates GlitchStorm from other arena shooters. encounters. That it's not just a menu with a list.
I think a lot of players would hear that there's a marketplace and get scared that it's pay to play, and that would be a concern.
No, that's not the case.
Okay. Yep.
And we tried, and then Michael, I think, balanced it quite well. That the amount of story, that it is not overwhelming. So we are not Bethesda. We don't want to spam you with side quests, and we don't want you to develop your skill tree, for example. But we need some goal to fight for, or fight for your friends, fight for your fame. And I can tell you that the level design is well structured, and Michael has a lot of experience about arena shooter, and those levels, it feels like he has